throughout Words of Music. This is going to be our last one. And first I'm going to do a little tell you the why, and then we're going to do a little gift card drawing. So what happened was, in 2018, I started directing this festival, and we established a relationship with Tubby and Koo's Traveling Bookshop. They have been amazing to work with. They've been our bookseller every year, including 2 pandemic years when they just got online for 4 days in a row and sold books. But then in 2023, when we found this beautiful home for the festival here on Bayou Road, we had to recognize that we moved in next door to the oldest Black-owned bookstore in the city, and that's Community Book Center. So we said, let's support both. Let's support our long-standing festival bookseller and also Community Book Center. So to do that, we invite you all to shop out there. Every book that you see from a panelist on this stage or that stage up there will be there, including this gorgeous anthology, which I know is a labor of love from Lisa Saloy in so many ways. She'll tell you more about that. Sorry to get choked up just thinking about all the poems I read in this beautiful book. But to help you support Community Book Center, if you registered for this session, you are automatically entered to win a $25 Community Book Center gift card. And thanks to this beautiful randomizer I have, I can randomly draw a name. And the name is...
Get a drum roll, please.
Marion, I'll bring it to you. So speaking of labors of love, Words of Music could not happen without all of the authors, all of the readers, all of the folks who put their support behind us. We have so many individuals and businesses and organizations that have come out and shown their belief in us. And one of those organizations is the Poetry Matters Project. And here to tell you a little bit about that is Lucinda Clark. Give it up for Lucinda, y'all.
First of all, I got on a plane and came out here. I thought the possibility of being stranded in Georgia or here in the airports up there just to come out and experience this festival. I approached Megan several years ago because I was hosting interns at Tulane University. And she said, sure, I'll help them out. So what do you need for them to do? And I said, I need them to learn the importance of nonprofit work in the arts. And Megan, she never says no. And she helped other young ladies, and they always showed up at this festival, and I was always in Georgia. I never got a chance to come. And then last year I came too late. The festival, I think it hadn't started. She said, just come on out. And this year I've come. And I'm here to tell you guys that it's not that we don't have anything like this in Georgia. We do, but it's in Atlanta, and I'm in Augusta. But it is one of the finest festivals I've ever had the honor of sponsoring. I've seen diversity, I've seen the community come together, I've seen a professor from my alum, Dillard University, and actually I have become a poet because of my work for the last 25 years working as a poet. And I tell you this quick, but I just wanted you all to know that it's been an honor to be able to share what you all are doing here. And if any of you are ever on a plane or ever in the big GA, Georgia, not Atlanta, but Augusta, come on over and check us out and see what we're doing there. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Saloy, and I am one of the editors of this beautiful volume. The other editor is John Warner Smith. He was served as poet laureate of the state of Louisiana before I did. And it was his idea. he came to myself and to our outgoing poet laureate, Allison Pellegrin, and with the idea, and we were deeply touched and overwhelmed by the idea, and wondering if something Mark Folks had said recently, well, aren't people Katrina fatigued or something? But we felt a healing was in order, especially for those of us who had to move a lot of times. There was no place to live, so I lost everything. That is not uncommon. But the point was that we weren't settled to work on our work. We were not, how can I say it, stationed so that we could compete. And some people wrote beautiful things from here, only a few. And then some people nationally wrote beautiful things, but they didn't experience any of it. And we somehow felt, oh, this is not fair. So this was our chance to step up. And this is what we tried to do. Also, something happened in the process. First of all, we were permitted by the Golden family, Roland Golden, and the Historic New Orleans collection to use this beautiful painting as a cover. And in the process, I said, one piece is not enough. So we added art. So there are 38 writers in this volume and 9 visual artists. And that's why the size is we could not squish the art. So we feel it's a keeper. It's a small coffee table book. But for me personally, even for John Warner, whose father went through a lot, wouldn't leave, like a lot of people here, and had to be lifted out. It was too much. And so this is our chance to have our say. We hope that you enjoy it, that it's a healing for you. So I'm going to give a few introductory words from the back of the book, and then I'm going to turn it over to my poet colleague, Benjamin, because he has some introductory comments too. Darryl Bork, who was Louisiana Poet Laureate from 2007 to 2011, says, Hurricanes Katrina and Rita at 20 is a jazz funeral second line through and through. The poems rise like white handkerchiefs of hope, waving over the heads and hearts of witnesses who know grief and loss and terror, and how to dance the dance of passing through. Kudos to Saloy and Smith for bringing us these songs of rupture and repair. Thank you, Darryl Bork. Also, equally poignant is Jack Bedell's comment, author of Ghost Forest and Louisiana Poet Laureate 2017 and 2019. He writes, if you've lived through them, storms like Katrina and Rita draw a hard line in your history, like BC and AD, between the before and the after times. For some, the in-between time before life regains normalcy takes hours. For some, whole decades, and each moment on that hard line has countless voices. Those voices are exactly what Hurricanes Katrina and Rita at 20 brings to light. And so we hope that you enjoy these memorable voices, all so strong, so unique, and each brings something so needed of our human history through these times, those hard times, and reminds us of just how resilient we are, how creative we are, how moved we are by humanity, that how we come together and how we keep together in our beloved home. So let me give you.
Thank you, Dr. Saloy. I'm going to be very brief. I brought some words that are not my own for a very particular reason. I have brought a collection by Lucille Clifton because she has a poem in here which I firmly believe speaks to the overall work of this anthology. This anthology is a healing. It is also an act of witness. And her poem, which I'm sure some of us here will know, it's a very short poem. It's called Why Some People Be Mad at Me Sometimes. And if you've heard it once, you won't already remember it. If you've never heard it before, you will now never forget it. But this short poem by Lucille absolutely speaks to the work that this book is doing. So, why some people be mad at me sometimes. They ask me to remember. They want me to remember their memories. And I keep on remembering mine. Every poem in this anthology is an act of remembering what we went through, what we experienced, and how much more work there still is to do. So I'm going to give the mic back to our editor here. Lucille is with us today. I think she would very much approve of this poem.
Thank you for that. As a Clifton fan, it is my honor as a young poet to filter in conferences and hear her live. It's just so moving. So our task here then is to share a song, our song of survival, a dance of grief and joy, and a testament to the indomitable spirit of New Orleans and our beloved Louisiana. I hope you are moved by how my verse captures both the devastation left by Hurricane Katrina and the enduring rhythm of resilience that beats in the heart of us. But all of us carve a living cultural memory here that deserves to be shared. So we'll begin, Gina.
All right, I'm so delighted to be in this book, and I'm gonna do a New Orleans thing and give you kind of a New Orleans hello, New Orleans goodbye. I think.
Let me just.
First of all, our current poet laureate, Gina Ferrara.
In 2005, in August of 2005, August 15th to be exact, I lost my grandmother. We were extremely close, and she had been sick that entire summer. She lived a long life. It was a blessing to have her, and it was a blessing that she passed when she did, because I feel relatively certain that if she would have lingered, we wouldn't have left her. We couldn't have evacuated. My mother lost everything in Katrina, 15 feet of water in her house. So it was good that Nana had left. And then we evacuated to Jackson, Mississippi. My mom's younger brother, my godfather, lived in St. Bernard Parish, and he thought he might evacuate, then he changed his mind. He felt he had been in the army, he could survive anything, and he had a boat, so he felt like he was prepared. Never evacuated for a storm. So Katrina came, and the storm passed, and he said later that he was sitting in his living room, and he felt at first his feet got wet, and he was like, So then he looks, and not too much longer later, he sees his truck like floating away. And so he knew that they had to leave. He was there with his wife. They were making their way to the boat. My aunt, Darlene, was a dog lover. She turned around to go back for the dog, and literally she got swept away by the water. And we didn't know what happened to them. We were in Jackson. We were under the assumption that everything was okay, and it wasn't, of course. And so, when Jack Riddell says there's the before and there's the after, that's really how I think of my life now, before Katrina and after Katrina. And kind of along with that, I felt tremendous survivor's guilt. My mother lost everything, my uncle lost everything. Yet, you know, my husband and I, we were relatively unscathed by the storm because of where we lived. So there's a lot of complicated emotions with the storm too, and a loss that's just, you know, can't even describe when you lose a family member like that. Okay, I think. Okay. All right. So disorganized. A seasonal situation. The consecutive freeze, 3 hard nights, we couldn't move the citrus tree with entrenched roots, so we swaddled it in mismatched sheets and faded flannel robes, cinching them with ropes, masks, mask tape the gates to make the tree appear larger and mammalian, mythic enough to scare the dog. Leafless became synonymous with lifeless once we removed layers to see it bare, barbed, unsuitable for nests, until some sight of buds, beyond imaginary, might appear, eventually yielding what is unspoken but known, to peel skins, then separate suma segments, surpasses surviving. And this is a poem that I wrote about my mother's house, Sunflowers. When the city felt moon barren, stricken, we were the only people back. And I wanted to see anything but the lingering repercussions of breaches and overtoppings, complete failures that destroyed my mother's piano, made it rise to the rafters, then sink, a convergence of river and lake between felt and hammers, treble and bass strings, glistening like fishing lines, minus bait and catches. Ivory keys wet, then warping into a chordless, cacophonous elegy, a heap of soft, weary wood of what was every possession, no longer in need of apostrophes and names, obliterating pronouns, irrelevant descriptions, verbs, nouns, losing, lost, followed by loss. Dirt remained the shade of a dirge. I dug holes, dropped seeds of mammoth promise to yield expansive heads, said to rise above floodlines. After 2 decades, Jonathan calls them junk trees, the ones yielding hard black berries, favored by families of raccoons, the camphors that arrive unplanned after a city's 3-week total submersion, limp reeds and slack shoots fluidly transported by floodwaters, then deposited as remnants of the fallen, unable to withstand what began as some other yard's shady potential, or not from water, from burdened air, a migratory bird flying litanies above the devastation and gutted, its beak agape, just enough to drop seeds, a minute mouthful in succession here, the time when soil accepted circumstances no different than charities, kindnesses, rooted in aftermath, a gangly grove of 4, random storm trees, ragged, reaching full height.
Thank you so much. And Gina's whole bio, and she's done so much, is in here, as is everyone's. And I don't want to diminish that, but you're poet laureate now. That kind of eclipses everything. So we're so proud of you. Thank you. And happy for your success.
Amen.
And Benjamin Morris is a native of Mississippi, the author of 2 prior books of poetry and 1 book of nonfiction, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, A History of the Hub City. His work has appeared in the Oxford American, Lit Hub, and the Southern Review, and received fellowships from the Mississippi Arts Council and Tulane University. His next book, a full-length collection of poems, entitled The Singing River is forthcoming from Valentine Press. You listen to us.
Thank you. I'm delighted to say that that is an old statement and that the book is no longer forthcoming. It is here. It is now on that table. There are some Katrina poems in there, but I want to focus on the ones here in this anthology. It was such a strange experience. I'm born and raised in Hattiesburg, and so native of the Gulf Coast. And when Katrina left New Orleans, it traveled straight up Interstate 59 and hit us next. So it hit storm surge on the coast, flood here, up 59. We were third in line. And we also received tens of thousands of evacuees and refugees. I call them refugees because that's what they were in my hometown. And for the first month after the storm, I worked in relief for the Red Cross as a driver. I know the local roads. I was able to kind of get people where they needed to go, volunteers, medical, that sort of thing. And, it was a very surreal experience, of course. But also, right when the storm hit, I was still living overseas and had to take the last train to get the last flight to get back as soon as I could. I couldn't reach my parents. It was a very strange, sort of frantic time. Managed to make it back about 3 days after the storm made impact. But those first 72 hours, of course, I was watching it unfold on screens from afar, and how the house did know, that sort of thing. Very common experience for all of us. The poems in the first poem I want to read in the anthology is called Elegy for Andrea Perkins, and it came from a photograph which I'm sure many folks will remember by Brett Duke. It was in the Times-Picayune. It was of a woman on her knees, sort of pleading like this before the crowd at the Superdome. I think she was facing the National Guard at that moment, just begging for relief. Very widespread photo, and something about it just hit me really hard, and this poem came out of that. So this is called Elegy for Andrea Perkins. Look for the tallest buildings, and that will be Canal Street, the guide said. An adage for when streets slipped into something other than raw space and the lamps spoke warmly of your welcome. But then came the wind, the rain, the night was lost on Loyola, and the world began to swim in its shadows. There is so much love in this city, you say, staring into the gutter as though you expected to find something there. Key, a glint to take you down the path of easy regrets, of loss left unwashed at the river's edge. But that is what we have come here to see. A woman on her knees, praying that when this ends, she will still be able to pray. There are three poems in the anthology. I think I just want to read this next one and call it there. Something that I ended up having to work on as a researcher, an academic researcher, was I wrote a doctoral dissertation on the impact of the storm on the culture of the city, and as well the rebuilding of the culture in the city and how that affected the recovery process. So two sides of the same coin. How do you rebuild the arts after a disaster? And how does a disaster contribute to our understanding of the need for the arts in the city? And what struck me as I did that research, New Orleans-centric but Gulf Coast focus, was that storms are so intensely generational that we begin to think of them as more than metaphors. They occasion habits of thought and triggers in our mind that we can never, ever expect, right? I mean, something will happen 5 or 10 years after the event itself, and it will jar something in you and give you a kind of recollection or sort of PTSD event that you don't fully understand, but it only came from this. It's like the signature of the trauma or the signature of the disaster. And this poem is called Storm Surge. And there's not a hurricane in this poem, not at least the literal kind. But I don't think this poem could have existed without having experienced storm after storm after storm. This is a love poem, but this could not have been written without the experience that all of us have here on the Gulf Coast, living through storm after storm after storm, including Katrina. So this is called Storm Surge. None of this would have happened if everything had been swept off the bed. Books, scraps of paper, coffee mugs, and bleeding pens, and other shards of surface unaccustomed to becoming a desk. If you hadn't appeared at my door after a long, unthinkable absence, an absence whose end twinkled faintly in the night sky like a comet, first there, then not, then there again. If you hadn't finally reappeared, then none of the corners of the rug would have been kicked away, and the shirt draped over the dresser would have fluttered to the floor, and the bedspread woven in black and deep scarlet like the tail of a fox the moment it slips into the night would have seen only a single triangle turned over in the morning. But such humble objects always linger back, don't they? As if waiting for the chance to become something other than what they are, something overturned and unexpected in the storm surge. And outside now, where we wait for the yoke of dawn to spill over the horizon's rim, a leaf in mid-fall becomes a metaphor, flips back to leaf, flips.
Thank you. And Benjamin Hintz, when he made in his opening comments, it took a year to put this together, so we received submissions from 2024 to 2025, so certainly some things have changed since. But next we'll have not just a poet, but a fine educator, Michelle M.A. Nicholson, whose students who are writers, that just moved me so deeply to see you working with these young people and to have them here so proudly presenting their work and influenced by the writers they're meeting that you bring to their class. Thank you. For everybody's not an educator. There are people who teach, but they're just not educators. So we thank you and we applaud you, number one. Michelle A. Nicholson is a New Orleans poet, editor, educator, journalist, and co-founder of LMNL, Liminal Arts, through which she has organized and hosted many wonderful readings, workshops, and festivals featuring writers from New Orleans and beyond. An alumna of Loyola University and an MFA graduate from the University of New Orleans, where she served as Associate Poetry Editor for Bayou Magazine. M.A. was the recipient of the 2021 Andrea Saunders Brady Academy of American Poets Award and was featured in Best New Poems in 2022, her debut poetry collection. Around the Gate, WordWorks Books 2024 was selected for the Hillary Tham Capital Collection Prize. And she was Kenyon Review 2024 Peter Taylor Fellow. She has written for Way At Magazine since 2018 and began teaching creative writing at the Willow School in 2024. And again, she's doing a magnificent job there. So, you're on.
Yeah, I've been holding for a while. So thank you so much for that really generous introduction, Lisa. I want to preface my reading by saying that when writing, my orientation is just as much focused on the impact my words will have on my audience, just as much as I acknowledge the work as archival and my role as a witness. Very much so, that orientation is inspired by writers like Mona Lisa, who also deliver a powerful message of hope and resilience in everything that she does and everything that she writes. Or as Jericho Brown writes, I begin with love and hope to end there. I'm also always concerned with or informed by my hyper-awareness as a New Orleanian of inheritance in cycles, particularly what many of us have already touched upon, the inevitability of these storms. You know, growing up it was Betsy, now it's Katrina, and so, you know, we know at an early age what the sacrifice is for being alive and being in this place. And we choose it every day. And so, also how those experiences really teach us about ourselves and about resilience and teach us hope. So I have two poems looking both at the past and the future in that way. And I will share those with you guys now. Not whether, but when the river rises. And this is inspired by work by Daniel Cayley, who is in the audience, so I just wanted to give him a shout out too. Yeah. How simple the miracle of a memory of sky. Memory of stars, courtyard framed, sheltered from light in this city, invisible, remembering the swamp, remembering at its door, at its skirt, at the tip of its tongue is a language not lost but unuttered, felt, the steady strum, the vocals of our river resounding from the amphitheater of New Orleans, hallowed acoustic clap of so many feet over cobble, over time, the cities of voice in sync with these harmonizing echoes, where the earth sinks as it rises, the river's wake remembers it was more than once a flood. Graduation song for my Katrina baby, who was 9 days old when we evacuated. Glittering eyes, sharp tongue forked, mouthing honeyed, dark, spicy greens. Fire builder, fire stoker, bringing forth light from ash. Boy from lavender and cedarwood, from black grapes and black cherries. Boy belting out naive love song karaoke, pitch perfect, while we navigate cities and valleys. Boy racing through fields of wildflowers, careening down the mountain. Boy dancing in the rain. Boy knotting a plaid tie. Boy staring into the sun, shaking loose what he has learned to see. The drifting remnants of a fetal optical artery dissolved, a snow globe in the periphery of his own inner eye. What joy is there in radish that may grow to seed, unblemished, unearthed from where it belongs? He is all interrogations, ethics and existentialism, the cost of freedom, taxi driver, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and the Smiths. Plato and poetry, brimmed hats and leather boots, cotton shirts, buttoned cuffs rolled up, tousled coifs. My boy was only ever a small man. Round head tucked neatly, nestled warm under Mama's arm. Now Mama tucks her shoulder under his. How we cross paths under destined stars. How a storm-torn newborn returns to map the land of his ancestors. Paraplum. Thank you.
Thank you so much. is a person who came out of a strong performing and spoken word career. But her work is equally strong on the page and the stage. So we welcome Valentine Pierce. She's not only a spoken word artist, but also a graphic designer. She was the June 2006 writer-in-residence at a studio in the woods. Her creative and journalistic writing has been published throughout the United States. She's been featured on cable television and radio stations, including WWNO's The Reading Life. She co-hosted Rhythm and News, Open Mic. Berkeley Museum hosted WRBH's Writers Forum, produced shows including It's Personal, for which she received New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation grant. In its review of From a Bend in the River, which included Pierce's Rivers of My Soul, the Times-Picayune called her a stalwart of the New Orleans poetry scene. Her recent publications, in addition to this anthology, are the New Orleans Poetry Journal, Books Up Decatur, the second edition, and Geometry of the Heart, her debut poetry book. Valentine Pierce.
Forgive me. I'm very challenged to hold books and microphones when I do this. Yeah, of course, these days I got to live after 40. How's that? Good. Good? All right. Shut that down. Standing up. I actually have 3 pieces in this book, and I was grateful to be included in this. Like everybody else, we lost a lot of things. Personally, I lost things that weren't material, but my mother lost everything she owned. She said she got up, she went in the kitchen and put her breakfast on, went to the bedroom to do a little something, came back to the kitchen, and the water was in the house. The water rose to the edge of the balcony of the neighbors who rescued my mother. I didn't find this out, and we didn't find this out until 4 days later. And the only reason we found out is because my son's area code is a Texas area code. Because initially his daddy got him on the wrong way. And he tracked her down, and he found her. And my daughter said it was good because she was about to lose it, Another spoiled story there for them. Christmas stories. Okay, this is called End of Forever. I'm sorry, those are new poems right there. I didn't have something to write on. We all know we'll be there forever. Our quirky, dream-laden city. Its narrow streets, brick sidewalks, and centuries-old architecture. Full of desperate people with big plans, small hopes, no money. Full of conniving politicians with padded pockets, false friends, hollow hearts. This new century, we believe, was rich with promise, destined to bring a better life to 500,000 people. We rejoiced, set our hearts for that new day, made our plans to live well, live long, live better. Today, the living are more than 1,000 strong. More than 300 unknown, unnamed, in a makeshift morgue, miles and miles from home. Their spirits walk the empty streets of a city that once teemed with laughter, love, tragedy, trouble, all manner of things that tied us to them. The rest of us scattered to the four corners. No lives, no liberties, no pursuits, happy or otherwise. Today, we are besieged by grief. Our beleaguered sorrow smeared in the muddy ruins of our homes and habitats. At times, we are dazed, confused. Perhaps this is just one long, horrible nightmare. some strange episode of the Twilight Zone. But when we awake, after a night of fitful sleep, open our eyes to the morning sun in some old city, we know it is true. Our city is a forsaken wasteland. It's one that washed away by surging storms of government neglect. And we are homeless, scattered by the wind, left to wallow in a misery we neither caused nor could ever imagine. How did I become an expatriate? A refugee in my own country. Legally, UN defined, is legally internally displaced. That means you're up a creek without, and you know that. Even those of us who lived lost our lives. The quintessential living dead. Born, raised, and hope to die here, we used to say. Today, our words haunt us. We attempt to rearrange them, revise them. Born, raised, and hope to live again, we now say, in New Orleans. This one is called After the Storm. I get lost in the imagery we have become. We poets after the storm, now duly informed of our duty to self and city, our duty to country washed away by floodwaters polluted with remains left by hopelessly powered tricksters who don't know their behinds from a hole in the ground. After the storm, we wrote poems insanely, unpoetically, unpolitically incorrect. Good English ignored entirely dark, wet, hot, angry rants about justice's bloody eyes and our abandonment by presidents, both living and dead. They disowned us. We who had bled and cried, suffered and died for this land. After the storm, we wrung our hands, wept for weeks on end, until the day they let us back in to the city we lost, the one we love still. That day, we began wringing the water from our lives, our homes, our cars, our clothes. We dried up our wars knees and began reviving the city. Nobody gave a damn about people, except us, Uncle Sam's bastard children. After the storm, we told some to carry their iron and hit the party behind back to their harmonized, franchised, subdivided suburbs all over the U.S. of A. Those who wanted to roll up their sleeves, those who wanted to roll up their sleeves found a cot in a corner, cold meals, and mornings and midnights like nothing they'd ever seen. After the storm, we cried ourselves silly, cried ourselves sick, cried ourselves asleep, cried in our dreams, cried ourselves awake, cried because we couldn't not cry, cried. We got on with our lives that never changed, lives that will never, ever be the same. Okay, so we're gonna move the train on to something a little better. This is called Gone Too Long, too. I should change that because the one is disappeared into the two. It seems I've been gone a long time. I said, it seems like I've been gone a long time. I miss blue skies and thunderstorms. I was just too far from home. A long time, too far from home. I'd only just returned from the fog-banked edge of the nation. 4 years of hardship, sleeping on a cold shoulder of California. A few hours too far north of temperate days and balmy nights, in hope of capturing that elusive trip, when I was exiled to the arid valleys and purple mountains of Arizona, by floodwaters that rose higher than ours. And the whole time I was gone, I missed blue skies, and thunderstorms, missed po' boys and chicory and gumbo too, missed warm Decembers more than hot Julys, king cake in January, crawfish in February, missed second line and zydeco and flambeau torches, missed Zulu, brass bands, and dancing in the street, missed everything our body could miss. I know you're sitting there thinking, how could anybody miss this? Poverty and poverty, abandoned buildings, slum lords, the cultural contradictions of power, money, and privilege, government neglect, desperation. I tell you, you can find that anywhere. I said you can find that everywhere. But this centuries-old architecture, this grab bag of spiritual beliefs, this gumbo culture, this mixed pot of people, these distinctive diamonds and defiant disregard for the king's anguish, only one place for things like that. Here in this place, that is in the South, but not the South. Not as the North knows it. The foot of America, heel and big toe, the arch. You know what I'm saying? In the South, deep South, where not yet freezing temperatures send the natives scurrying indoors, where before Katrina and true, less than shortcutting, the federal flood of August 2005, the last major disaster, was the freeze of '89, when we were forced to navigate icy streets that track us on the wrong side of the river. You know, the right side is the other side to live on. Then there was Christmas '04. It was like a miracle on 34th Street, if we had a 34th Street. We spun in toes, so like children, with our grown children and their children, and celebrated the first white Christmas some of us had ever seen, except on TV. That doesn't count. We threw snowballs at each other and stuck our tongues out to see what snowflakes taste like. New Orleans, practically another country, where hurricane watching is a way of life, accepted, like most natural disasters. I mean, you can't run from them all. When was the last time someone beat an earthquake to the finish line? Who yet has stopped the flooding up north, the fires out west, the erupting volcanoes, tsunamis? So we accept our hurricanes, acknowledge their power, but sometimes we forget. They are more fickle than fate and far more dangerous. Here in this city that care for God, we honor our dead, respect our elders, spoil our babies, and pay homage to our heroes. We aren't Dixie. That's the other side. Our southern twang is like a speeding train, with a French, Spanish, German, Native American, Creole, Dutch, Portuguese, Swiss, Caribbean, Cajun, European flair. We are from everywhere. We're glad we live here. In the Crescent City, where the music plays all night, and locals, natives and transplanted, dance with strangers. Because we know, despite the pain, life is a celebration. It has to be. Down here, we know how to fend for ourselves, how to make do, because sometimes that is the best we can do. As we try to get through the day, the week, or sometimes the whole damn year, on whatever resources we can scrape up. Yes, we beg, borrow, and steal to survive. We like living here at the mouth of the Mississippi, legendary river, whose muddy water has inspired many, whose ships feed an entire nation one way or another. In this city, humidity is so heavy you can scoop it with a bucket. Here, we speak to people we pass on the sidewalk, even if we don't know them. It ain't that hard to be polite. Besides, who knows? They might know your mom and them. What you gonna do if they tell on you for being rude? Here we got our gumbo language, our gumbo food, our gumbo culture. You know what I mean, don't you? Yeah, you know what I mean. I miss my odd collection of friends. Black and brown and cream and red skins and white skins, shop owners, artists, politicians, poets and painters, soothsayers, palm readers and songsters, movers, shakers, and show enough heartbreakers, doctors, lawyers, and real fast talkers. People who let me be just another one, just another odd one in a group. Yeah, it seems like I can come a long, long time. And the whole time I was gone, I missed blue skies and thunderstorms, po' boys, chickweed, and gumbo too. Frozen cups, hucklebucks, cold cups, jazz fest, Essence fest, Mardi Gras, Indians with their spy boys and big chiefs, Zulu brass bands and night. Yeah, I miss everything a body could miss. I've been gone too long, too far from home. But now that I'm back.
Indeed, thank you, thank you. Since I'm going to close out, I just want to acknowledge that our former poet laureate, Allison Pellegrin, is in the house. And also in the Anthology, Brad Richard is in the house. Mark Cole is in the house. Daniel is not in here, but one of our favorite poets is in the house. So, and thank you, Megan Holt, for all the wonderful work you do with Words and Music Festival and 111 New Orleans. We just salute you for all of that. Let's give her a big hand. I'm going to close out, but Gina has an announcement.
Very, very quickly, there's going to be a reading for this anthology. It's going to be the first Saturday in December, which I think is December the 6th. It's going to be at the Nora Novel Library. So please come out to hear these wonderful poets again. We hope that you can be there for us.
Yes, please. And it's in the neighborhood. I'm going to close out with this poem. And I did that because sometimes I get full and I won't be able to talk. The 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. In spite of hurricanes, Katrina, Rita, Isaac, Ida, Francine, etc., those here want to be here. Hollywood South again, home to movies and television, Creole cuisine and international phenomena. Neighborhood Black warriors featured on Tremaine on HBO. Still bead and await parade permits for after the pandemic and beyond. Some elevated homes go more green, and Black families still masking downtown and uptown, making music. Folks give rock and worship services on Sunday mornings, live and virtually. Myself, blessed to escape shelters. Blessed, I relied on the generosity of friends and family. I've moved 16 times in 14 and a half years. Had 12 different addresses, lived in 3 states, 5 cities, and that is not uncommon. Insurance companies stiffed us, dropped us. No replacement monies like other states or wealthy neighborhoods along the lakefront. My family home, half built for 8.5 years, is now completed. Thank you, God. Home as an educator, a life full of constant study, with the rewards of grooming eager students for success. Later, online, amid a pandemic, even more artists, elders, musicians gone, with the constant assault on our Black men, women, youth. Civic responsibility, our neighborhood association work, is gratifying and taxing. Someone has to do it. I steal time to research, to document Black Creole culture here, to write while rebuilding my library, one book at a time. So 20 years later, y'all are still singular and plural. The cicadas, doves, snakes, owls sing loudly again. Mosquitoes too. Daily I give thanks, enjoy reading a good book or magazine in my raised galleries, and welcome my family, friends, and neighbors home. I'm gonna lay down my burdens down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my burdens down by the riverside. you again for being here.